Hi, my name is Yvonne, and I'm coming to you to tell you my story. So I hope that you would like, share, and subscribe to my page. I'm a new YouTuber, but I have a story to tell. And this story is about my mother, who is now 90 years old and has been forced into an unwarranted and unjustified guardianship, which is a shame because I'm the youngest of 10 children, in which I have 7 living siblings. And for my mother to be a ward of the state of Maryland is actually embarrassing, and it's a shame. So my mother had me to contact Adult Protective Services because her now guardian, which is my eldest stepsister, whom my mother did not raise, she had gotten my mother to allow her to put her name on her bank account because she claimed she wanted to help her to not write duplicate bills or pay duplicate bills. However, she done this behind all the siblings' backs, and what she did was she took all of the money out of my mother's account and placed it in an account of her own, along with another sister, my only other living sister. And they opened an account, and they had all of my mother's money transferred from her account and into their account. And every time my mother got paid, they would go on the phone and transfer the money into their account. However, my mother got upset after I took her to the bank one day at her request, and she was told she had a zero balance. Now, my mother has had her account for almost 50 years at this bank. And for them to tell her that she had a zero balance, she couldn't even get $10. She got highly upset, in which I've never seen my mother. And she stated to me and my friend who was driving us that she wanted to take my sister to court. However, me not knowing exactly what to do, I had her call my sister, in which my sister hung up the phone in her ear and told her, oh, we already talked about that, And my mother's like, we haven't talked about anything. Well, she hung up on my mother. Said, I'll talk to you later. Click up. So, in search of trying to find some help for my mother, I did a little research and I contacted Adult Protective Services instead of going to the court. I filed the complaint with Adult Protective Services, and I spoke with the investigator, who called me back the next day and scheduled an appointment to come and start the investigation at my mother's address, my mother's home. So on that Friday, which was June the 8th of 2018, I waited patiently all day long, and this Adult Protective Services inspector by the name of Amsel Bogali, Bogale, who works for the Prince George's County Department of Adult Protective Services. She called back, and she never came, actually. However, on that Monday, she came, and she met with my sister, the one whom she was supposed to have been investigating, and had the police block me from coming into my mother's home, which I was going to every day, caring and cooking and cleaning for my mother. However, on this same day, she lied on the housing inspectors, DPI, it's Department of Permits and Inspections here in Prince George's County. She lied on the inspector and said that he had condemned the house for mold, which I had recently had my mother's whole house renovated. So it was no mold there. And she told everyone, including my mother and all the grandkids or whoever was living there at my mother's. It was a total of 8 people living there with my mother at the time. So she was never alone, although I went there every day to oversee everything and to make sure all meals were prepared and the house was clean. However, she told my mother and everyone that they had to get out of the house. She evicted everyone on the spot with the help of the Prince George's County Police, not the Sheriff's Department. No written eviction order. She just told everybody they had to get out. And so upon them coming out of the house, my mother saw me standing on the front because, like I said, they did not let me in. And I said, well, I'm the one who called you guys for my mother, And so she said, well, everybody has to get out. And I say, on what ground? She said, the house is condemned for mold. DPI has condemned the house for mold. I was like, what? Anyway, so my mother saw me upon coming out of the house, and my mother said, oh, there's Vonnie. If I got to leave my home, I'll go with my daughter, Yvonne. She told my mother, now this is what the Adult Protective Services worker Amsale Bogali told my mother. No, you cannot go with her. Even though I'm the one who called you, no, she cannot go with you. You cannot go with her because you have to go with your power of attorney, which is my sister. Well, my mother responded and told this woman, no, I don't have a power of attorney. However, this woman looked my mother in her face and told her, oh, you don't know because you're incompetent. You already know that those was fighting words in my eyesight. So I jumped in her face, not really jumped in her face, but I confronted her, excuse me, who are you saying is incompetent? Well, the police got in front of me and said, well, look, do you want to go to jail? I'm like, no, I don't want to go to jail. So they said, you need to back up. So I had to watch my mother and everyone who was living with her, which was my oldest daughter and her children, was staying in the basement. Another nephew who had been there since his mother died and my mother raised him. I had to watch all of them get put on the street by this Adult Protective Services worker while she demanded my mother into my sister's hand, whom my mother had just told me a couple of days before that she wanted to take to court. That was the last day that my mother had stepped foot in her home of 50 years. Her house has since been auctioned and gotten rid of, even though it was under a reverse mortgage. The story gets a lot worse, trust me. So what I want to do is I want to take you on this journey. I want to show you the guardianship application in which my half-sister filed to the Prince George's County Circuit Court for the guardianship. It was incompleted. It was misrepresented. It had lies on it. And it just was not good information. I believe she was instructed by the Adult Protective Services worker what to do. But however, the application clearly states that everything should be completed before it's filed, in which it was not. And I will be taking you through that process also. Also with that application, in order to get guardianship, you have to file 2 doctor's reports. So you have to have 2 separate doctors to say that this person is incompetent in order for you to get guardianship. Well, the 2 doctor statements, one in which was filled out by my mother's doctor that does not say she's incompetent, okay? And the other one was filled out by my half-sister's job. Her daughter is a nurse and works at a facility out in Millersville, and she took my mother there to one of her co-workers, and he said my mother was severely incompetent. Now, if you look at the 2 doctors' reports, they're very conflicting. One says she can do this, one says she can't read, she can't write, she can't use the telephone. She was calling me every day, and she still calls me. So, these things were conflicting. I brought them all to the judge's attention, in which she totally ignored. The judge who was presiding over the case is Judge Danica Varner Cotton in the Prince George's County Circuit Court here in Prince George's County, Maryland. And I'm going to take you through and show you some of the documents that I filed, as well as what my siblings has filed. I'm going to even go as far as letting you hear some of the court transcripts, which I have here, which are documented transcripts from like 2 of the court hearings. I also have a transcript that's in written form that I had to purchase in order to do an appeal, even though that didn't go too well because it was during COVID, and one of my siblings asked the judge to dismiss it and not give me more time to file a brief in which I didn't really know exactly what I was doing, but by the time I got the hang of it, she had asked the judge to dismiss it. So that was a mess. And this whole case is just a mess. I mean, I had a very close bond with my mother. I've been with my mother from day one, and I was there. My mother drove to my house every day, okay? I'm the one who noticed my mother memory getting a little, bad, because she had left my house one day and was like, Vonnie, where am I at? I'm in Bowie. And I was like, Ma, okay, it's time to stop driving. But then they came in, my siblings, and they wanted to jump the gun. But all along, we had been having family meetings, and this one sister who had her name on that account, I would say, well, you need to bring Mama's bank statements to the house, because my mother every day was like, Vonnie, why the mailman not bringing my bank statements? Where's my bank statements? Anyway, because, older people, they look forward to their mail, and she didn't get much mail, but she did get her bank statement every month, maybe a couple of utility bills, but that was about it. So, people like to look forward to their mail. And when I finally took her to the bank, my sister had stopped her from receiving her bank statement. So when we had started having these family meetings, I was requesting my sister to bring the bank statements. And the way she had got all of my siblings to turn against me is because when she finally brought a bank statement, she brought one where my mother had given me some money, because when I was having her house renovated, she appreciated, I guess, the love that I gave her and the treatment that I gave her when she was here at my house, that I just woke up one morning and she was sitting out here with a check in her hand and was like, this is for you. I said, what's that? She said, I want you to have it. And so she started to say, if anybody asks you, and I stopped her because I do talk too much sometimes. And I said, if anybody asks me anything, I'm going to tell them to mind their business, because what's yours is yours, and you can do with what you want to do with what's yours. But anyway, we'll get into all of that. And like I said, that was how she got my siblings to go against me. She told them I was stealing, but yet none of them ever came to me or my mother to ask any validation of that. So this is a heartbroken story. This story has taken me to a point in my life where I don't want to say it's depressed me, but if I didn't think that depression was a sin, that's exactly what I would say. But my mom always say depression is a sin. So I try not to say I'm depressed, but this has definitely put me in a mood that sometimes I just break down out of nowhere, because it's like I've lost my mother and she's not deceased. I had to go to court and get visitation rights to see my mother. And now my sister who has her is sending her from pillar to post and doesn't even want her, and paying my siblings to take her out of her money, out of my mother's money. Okay? And my mother has always told me certain things to never let happen in her old age. And now I'm fighting for her justice, because I know what she told me and I want to honor and respect it. But I have a court system that's fighting against me as if they know my mother better than I know my mother. Yet they have never laid their eyes on my mother. She has not been in the courtroom not one time. My mother cannot choose where she wants to go. My mother cannot choose what she wants to eat. My mother cannot choose who she wants to be with. My mother can't even choose what she wants to wear. They have taken every right from my mother. And I, Yvonne D. Keller, will fight for justice for my mother for as long as the good Lord put breath in my body. This is a very hard thing for me to do, and I've been having a lot of fears about getting on YouTube and telling my story. But me just sharing my story on my Facebook page, I've had people come to me and ask me for advice in all kinds of situations. So I know that it's a lot of people out here going through some of the very things that I've been through. I've taken the time to do a lot of research. I've taken the time to look up the Maryland codes and laws. I've taken the time to even talk to attorneys, paying as much as $450 an hour just to have a consultation. I've spoken with the free attorneys. I've spoken to everybody, because you never know who can help you with your story. And I've even found out something about supported decision making in doing my research, and we're going to talk about that as well. And right here, let me see if I can pull it over a little for you. I know I should be able to turn this camera around, but anyway, right here, this is the paper. All of these papers of all my court documents. I hope I got that right. But all of those are my court documents, hearing requests, petitions that I filed in the court. I'm going to try to walk you through as many of them as I can. Hopefully, I'll get the courage to go live so that we can have questions and answers sometimes. And I can help those who may need some help. If I can, I will. And talking about adult guardianships. I feel like the elderly are treated so bad. And to make it to your golden years, your actual golden years, and to have everything that you've ever worked for stripped away from you by a greedy family member is truly mind-boggling. My mother was the type who would give anybody anything. All she had to do was ask her. And sometimes you didn't even have to ask her. You could just be having a conversation with my mother, and you're going through something, and she would offer it to you. And my siblings knew this. My mother has never been one to take prescription meds. I watched my mother when I was about 15 or 16 years old. I watched my mother have a nosebleed that looked like water was being poured to the top of her head and just running out of her nose. That's how the blood was gushing. And that's when she found out she had high blood pressure. And had she not had the nosebleed, I understand she could have had a stroke and it could have killed her. But by the grace of God, she lived. And what she did was, she still didn't want to get on high blood pressure medicine. She sought out Pastor Tyler, which is a holistic doctor well known in the Washington, D.C. area. And she started going to see him, and he gave her remedies, and she would take her vinegar, or she would do whatever if she felt her pressure was high. My mother, she used to sell Shackley, all natural herbs and vitamins. My mother has never been one to be in love with Big Pharma. She never wanted to take prescription drugs. She always had holistic remedies for everything. Okay, if my nephew would be hyper, get that boy a B complex. I mean, you're fat, take some lecithin. She always knew the proper natural remedies for different problems that, we would have. And so now she is being forced to take all kinds of medications that she has never believed in. She doesn't even have a choice of her medication, or if she does or does not want to take it. They have taken total control over my mother's life without giving her any choices. She doesn't want to be in Norfolk, Virginia with my brother and his wife. She never visited them before now. But now she don't have a choice but to go, because that's where her guardian sent her, because she doesn't want to be bothered. So she put a $1,500 price tag on it. So now my brother is getting $1,500 to take my mother. Whereas I wrote to court and told her, I don't want a dime. Give me my mother. Let me love up on my mother in her golden years. Let me be there for her like she has been there for me. I don't want a dime. Okay, keep the money. Give me my mother. In which they don't want to do that. I have one sister who she's going to be going to soon. Another sibling. The one who was on that bank account with the guardian. And she really doesn't want to be bothered. And I know my mother really doesn't want to be there. Okay? I've had so many conversations with my mother over the years. I could talk to my mother. I was the young kid, the spoiled one, the inquisitive one. I asked my mother everything that I thought I would need to know for this day. And it hurts me to my heart to know that I cannot respect her wishes and her desires because of these greedy people who just are doing it for the money and to hurt me. Because they're angry with me because I'm outspoken, I speak my mind, I don't have a cut card, no pun intended, but I'm there for my mother. And because they don't like it or they're jealous of my mother's relationship with me and our bond, that they did what they could to pull us apart. And now I have to get a court order to see my own mother. And she's 90 years old. It's terrible. But anyway, I'm going to take you through this journey with me. And hopefully we'll go over some codes and we'll break down the guardianship app. Everything in reference to adult guardianship and the alternatives. The things that were explored, the things that were overlooked, the disregard and the disrespect of the judge for my mother, how my brothers and sisters lied on me and tried to drag my name through the mud and try to make me look like I'm a person that I'm not. Yes, I'm a very outspoken, outgoing person, but I have a heart that's big as whatever. Okay, I love everybody. I love them. And I have asked them, I have forgiven them, and I have asked them to forgive me for any part that I might have played in it. But not once have they responded. Not once have they said that, to forgive them or they're sorry about what they did. I am still to this day trying to just be cordial with them and get a conversation as to why did you do what you did? What was your purpose? Okay, you wanted your house renovated? You done been through over $100,000 of my mother's money. Okay, you don't take good care of her.